In this crisis it occurred to me to look up an old friend, John Lang, with whom I had conducted some of my earliest experiments in spiritualism. He had no connection with my recent plunge into the darker occult mysteries, and for this I was thankful. I needed the companionship of a man who understood my hobby, but who would not remind me of the Buwalda case. So, little dreaming what the result was to be, I phoned Lang and told him I would like to call. He greeted me warmly, yet there was an appreciable hesitation in his voice before he responded to my suggestion. "It's this way, old fellow," he said. "My evenings are pretty well taken up just now. I'm interested in a girl, and I'm seldom home, but I'd be tickled to death to have you meet her. Suppose you join us for dinner tonight at Joe's Chop House on Fulton Street." I had a feeling of disappointment, even of annoyance, at the mention of a girl, but I answered that of course I'd be happy to join them. That was how I came to make the acquaintance of Sulka Kopernik, who cast upon men as singular a spell as it has ever been my lot to encounter. I was struck by her appearance the moment I entered the restaurant and spotted the table where she and Lang were waiting for me. Her head, poised on a long but graceful neck, was remarkable for three things: the yellow eyes, like those of a cat, the full red lips, voluptuous in their contours, yet with something cruel about them, and the thicket of black curls, which rioted so luxuriantly as to make her seem top-heavy. These features, indeed, especially the mouth and hair, would have been less striking if she had a head of normal size, but her face was exquisitely small, with delicate cheekbones sloping down to a little pointed chin. The effect was fantastic, what with those lips as sensuous as a scarlet rose, and that inky halo of her hair. I stared at her in a sort of bewitched amazement while Lang introduced me. I was conscious of a wave of attraction between us. It was not exactly that I liked her, but she fascinated me, and I felt absurdly pleased that she should greet me with so warm a smile. "What an odd name you have." "It's very pretty," I remarked. "Sulka Kopechnik." "It is a Czechoslovakian name. I am from Prague," she answered, with a trace of an accent. "But you have been in this country a long time." "About 10 years. My mother brought me over after the war, but she soon died." The yellow eyes clouded. I turned my attention to Lang for the first time. His face wore a look of complete infatuation. "Sulka is a wonderful girl," he beamed. "She taught herself English and worked her way through business college. She's considered the star stenographer in a law office where she works. I'm mighty glad to have you two know one another." As dinner progressed, I learned that Sulka lived by herself in a small apartment in the Columbia Heights section. Also, it became clear why Lang had warned me that I would seldom find him home. It wasn't simply that he was courting Miss Kopechnik. I had assumed they were engaged, but he was spending practically every evening at her apartment. "John and I are following up on some curious studies together," she said, by way of explanation. I squirmed uneasily, for the last thing I was in the mood to hear about at that moment was the occult, and I knew that any studies undertaken by John Lang were certain to be among those lines. At the same time, a more serious consideration was troubling me. I didn't like the uncanny hold that the girl Sulka was rapidly gaining on my emotions. Moreover, my sense of loyalty to John made me furious at her for leading me on as openly as she did. Luckily, he appeared not to notice that anything was amiss. We finished dining a little after 8 o'clock, and John leaned forward with a mysterious air. "I've got a surprise for you both," he said. "A new spiritualistic circle has opened up in Flatbush, and they say the medium gets great results. We'll hop into my car and be out there in half an hour." "My Lord, why?" I cried resentfully. "I should think you'd gone deeply enough into spiritualism not to put